Geog A to Z, supporting the National Festival of Fieldwork from the Geographical Association. Do join in. Think about the place where you teach. Think about where here is. Think about near and far. Think about the viewpoints that we allow children to have. Many children will not have the viewpoint across a river or across a lake or somewhere like this, seeing from North Greenwich the towers of Canary Wharf and the associated buildings and businesses there. But think about the viewpoints that we can offer children. One great resource I'd like to recommend today is an ability to compare and contrast your locality to the people who are featured on windowswap.com. You may have seen this site. There are many, many different opportunities here to connect to different places and spaces around the world. So it builds up that sense of place, that sense of geographical similarity and difference by looking at different aspects of human and physical geography. So even just comparing that previous image to this one, you can see it's a different sort of river, it's a different location. On the other side of the bank, it's just a very different scene. And of course, this is Canada, so it's a completely different continent as well. So it's the idea of comparing that small aspect, small place in your locality to other places, perhaps within the UK or possibly within non-European countries, or maybe if we're in Key Stage 2, comparing that to another region in a European country and a region within North and South America. And of course, region is a very problematic term. How much of that region do you want to cover? Because these are often vast areas. So there is some work to do, I think, on you really unpacking what that means for you. But sometimes these images are from the ground, sometimes they're animated and they're from the air. This is somebody landing from a plane, Newark Airport in the USA, and in other places they're really very, very different sorts of locations around the world. So do have a play with WhatsApp, with Windows Swap, opportunity to compare and contrast and really see that physical and human landscape come alive when you can think about maybe going in your locality and just bringing out these pictures and just showing them and saying, right, let's look at what we can see here and how different is it to what we can see in these different spaces and places and different contexts around the world. Now, in preparing for this, I went back to, because I was thinking about viewpoints, a different view, which is a manifesto from 2008-9 from the Geographical Association. It's worth looking at this document if you've not seen it before. There are some interesting things in there, particularly this phrase living geography. It's not a phrase that I use very often myself in my work, but it encompasses a lot of things that I've mentioned so far in terms of scale. Living geography is about this zoom lens, that local set in a more global context. It's the idea that living geography is about observing, deeply observing a location, looking beneath the surface to try and see the mechanisms and the change that occurs in environments and societies. So it's worth having a kind of consideration of whether you teach with this living geography perspective, because we need to give children a view. Maybe you get a chance to go on public transport and see the world passing by and considering that. Maybe you give them a chance to go on the top of a double-decker bus, probably not an open top one like this, but do they get a chance to see the world going by? That's another way to kind of survey or give them a transect of a particular locality. Is there a hill that they could stand by the side of and just see what's in the distance, see the lie of the land, get that viewpoint from that perspective? So think about the viewpoints that children have at near hand. Maybe there's building work going on, maybe there's a new construction, maybe there's demolition. I mean, children love seeing things being destroyed and flattened. Maybe they get a hint of somewhere like this. I think this was North London, possibly Hampstead or Harrow, I forget, looking towards the city from one of the hills around London. Maybe they just get a chance to look up. Maybe there are some higher blocks or towers near them. Maybe there are some green garden walls like this that they could really get a sense of height and the sorts of things that happen in these different buildings. So where can your children see far? Have they got the concept of nearest, nearer, near, far, further and furthest? Can they conceive of distance in terms of a meter, one big step, 10 meters, and then 100 meters and 1,000 meters? Have they got a sense of the difference between a kilometer and a mile? Can they see tall towers, large trees, TVs, electricity masts, wind turbines, or anything else that's tall from school? Really try and value how far or near those things are. What I like to do with some images as well that I show children or student teachers sometimes is to try and leave something out to try and give that sense of distance. Can you guess what's in the rest of the picture? This is from Waterloo East Station in London. Looks like a Coronation Street, kind of very traditional back-to-back houses view. But actually, when you see the constructions on the bank of the Thames there in the distance, it looks very, very different. Again, this is the banks of the Thames near me, the Chelsea embankment in the distance, and that's what it looks like. But actually, in the foreground, you've got quite a bucolic scene, really, just walking by the Thames path. Another one in the east of London this time, again, traditional street scene, but actually looking a little bit further, just casting that distant view, you do get a very, very different perspective. And then another Thames one. Again, some really interesting images that you sometimes get when you get that distance between water and land that you really don't get elsewhere. So this is just a bit of a jetty on the Thames, and then here you've got the wider view and perspective towards North Greenwich and towards the east of London there. And then a final one from Newcastle. You wouldn't imagine this was Newcastle looking at the bottom of the picture, but then when you start to see the famous bridges in the distance, you really can see the rest of the image brought to life. One from Manchester. That really blows my mind, having lived there or near there in the past. I really can't believe that that's not a computer-generated image. So that sense of scale and distance and near and far and perspective that you maybe get from a train platform or something else can really give you that sense of place. And of course, you might not be able to take children out there. This is an image of Bath, completing that image there. And this is one of Alexandra Palace from the hill. So what do you imagine London looks like in the distance? Well, it looks like that, really quite amazing if you're lucky enough to have this view. And of course, they may not be lucky enough to have this view near you. This may not be a view you could ever give them. So actually having these from local perspectives, from local hills or high points near you could be really, really valuable. And this is one from the centre of Sheffield, looking towards the Park Hill flats on the hill there. And one from Wales as well. I've forgotten about this one. This is Swansea. And one final one. I think this is the Trellick Tower in London. Oh, one more from the south coast, looking towards, I believe it was Folkestone. And this is the final one. This is Dungeness. Oh no, one more. This is central London again. So what I then thought of as a kind of helpful prompt is the amount of positional and directional language that we need to build up from the early years with groups of children. So I put these together in an alphabetical list. So just take a look at those. How often do we use these with children? Maybe with these images, maybe out and about. Could they start to use these in a phrase or in a sentence? There are so many, aren't there? There are so many that we could describe movement across a park. And it'd be really good to think about this in the playground, in the local streets, in the park, thinking about these words in context. This is Tower Hamlets. This is looking towards the towers in Canary Wharf again. But again, some more language here to really get them thinking. Horizontal and vertical and low and lower and lowest. Really important to get children thinking about this language. And like I say, using this language in context. Could they use this language based on some of these images that they're seeing? And then a final batch here. Tomorrow is all about weather.